we seek your blessing in this recitation, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 19. Tadan rajastamo bhava kamalabhadayaschaye chetaiter anavidam stitam sattve prasiddhati.
As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy.
Text 20. Evam prashanna manaso bhagavata bhakti yogataha bhagavata tattva vijnanam mukta sangashya jayate.
Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association.
Text 21. Vidyate hridaya granthis chidyante sarva samshayaha shiyante chashya karmani drishta evat manishware.
Thus the note in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master.
Text 22. Ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya muda Vasudeve bhagavati kurvanti atma prasaddanim.
Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, because such devotional service is enlivening to the self.
Text 23. Sattvam rajas tama iti prakriti gunastera yukta para purusha eke ihasya date stiti adaye hari virinchi hari hareti samjnaha Shreyamsi tatra kalu sattva tanor nirnam shyuhu.
The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And thus, for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness.
Parhivad darunodumas tasmat agnis trayimaye tasmasastu rajas tasmat sattvam yad brahma darshanam.
Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than raw wood. And fire is still better. So by fire, we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas. But goodness, sattva, is best because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth.
Text 25. Bejire munayo athagre bhagavatam adokshajam sattvam Vishuddham Shemaya Kalpante Ye Anutan Iha.
Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive the ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world.
Text 26. Mumukshavo Gora Rupana Hitva Bhutapatin Atha Narayanam Kalashanta Bhajantihi Anashuyava.
Those who are serious about liberation and certainly non-envious, and they respect all, yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods and worship only the all blissful forms of Lord Vishnu and his plenary portions.
Text 27. Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitra Bhuta Shadin Shri Ashwaryam Prajeshavaha.
Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship those in the same category, namely the forefathers and other living beings and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny.
Text 28-29. Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramakha Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriya Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Paro Dharma Vasudeva Paragati.
In the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life.
Text 30. Sa evadam sasarjagre Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Sad Asad Rupaya Chaso Gunamaya Guno Vibhuva.
In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy.
Text 31. Daya Vilashiteshwa Eshu Guneshu Gunavan Iva Anta Pravishta Abhati Vignanena Vrijambitaha.
After creating the material substance, the Lord, Vasudeva, expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position.
Text 32. Yatahi avahito vahnir daruswa eka swa yonishu naneva bhati vishwatma bhuteshu cha tatha punam.
The Lord, as Supersoul, pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second.
Text 33. Asau gunamayer bhaver bhuta sukshmendriyatmabhihi swanimiteshu nirvisto bhukte bhuteshu tadgunana.
The Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind.
Text 34. Bhavayati esha sattvena lokan vai loka bhavanaha lilavataran nurato deva tiryan naradishu.
Thus, the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness.
Thus end Bhakti Vedanta purport of the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Divinity and Divine Services. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Apologies for any mistakes. Thank you.
So nice, so much devotion in your recitation and reading of translation. Thank you so much, Mataji, Shailesh Prabhu. Thank you so much. Now we will go to the verse of the day. As verse number 33, Canto 1, Chapter 2. So I will recite the verse once again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Asau Gunamayer Bhave Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmabhihi Swanirmiteshu Nirvishto Bhunkte Bhuteshu Tadgunam. Word to word translation. Asau, that Paramatma, Gunamaya, influenced by the moods of nature, Bhave, naturally, Bhuta, created, Sukshma, subtle, Indriya, senses, Atma Bhihi, by the living beings, Swanirmiteshu, in his own creation, Nirvishta, entering, Bhunkte, causes to enjoy, Bhuteshu, in the living entities, Tat Gunan, those modes of nature. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Translation. The super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Purport. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being, Brahma, down to the insignificant ant. And all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. He proposes and the Lord disposes. In another sense, the living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. The sufferings and enjoyments of the sons are indirectly the sufferings and enjoyments of the Father. Still, the Father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering and enjoyment of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma and always tries to convert the living being towards the real happiness. Hare Krishna. Beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai. So we'll chant the Mangala Charan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shem He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Presthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, Paschat Deshakarine. Mukham karoti vachalam panghum langayate giram yatkripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you very much once again, Hima Mataji and Shailesh Prabhu, for that beautiful recitation. This is, so we are on the verse number 33, towards the end of the chapter. And also towards the, this is the last verse in the section where Sutta Goswami is answering the fourth question, as the devotees have previously explained in the last two sessions about the Lord's Purusha avatars, and particularly this verse and a couple of verses before have been focusing on Lord's incarnation as the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, or the Paramatma, as we know from Bhagavad Gita and so many other references. Srila Prabhupada starts the purport with the discussion of how many different varieties of species are being created. The translation of the verse I would read once again. The super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. So there are three modes of material nature which are influencing the living entities in the material world. So these are goodness, passion, and ignorance, as we all know. And the combination of these three modes, how they give rise to so many different varieties of these living beings. 8.4 million is a very definite number that we have from the Vedic scriptures. That's very interesting. And the science also, I believe, has come up to a very similar number after a lot of effort. And this is so easily provided in the scriptures and made available to us by Srila Prabhupada. So the Lord is maintaining everyone. There is a very, very famous verse Srila Prabhupada quotes many times. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Vidadhati Kaman. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. There is Nityo is eternal singular, Nityanam. So there is this Lord who is the Bhagavan, is a singular, and Nityanam are all the plural jivas. And Chetanas, like the consciousness, and one conscious and all the other conscious. Lord is the supreme conscious, supreme personality of Godhead, and also supreme consciousness. And there are all the other conscious beings. But that one Lord, Eko Bahunam, Yo Vidadhati Kama, the one provides for the desires of everyone. So that's Lord. And there's unlimited provision. There's inexhaustible supply, like 8.4 million different species. And for those species, the desires are different. Every species desire differently, and this is facilitated by the modes of material nature, as one likes to enjoy one mode over the other, or the other over the other, combination of one or many. So to fulfill that, each type of desire that may occur, actually it is said that every species of the 8.4 million that is given has ability to enjoy one particular aspect of mode of material nature to the most. And it's inconceivable for us to. So how those three modes can multiply into 8.4 million, but the Lord is sitting within everyone's heart, is listening. And the Lord has, as it explained in the scriptures, the Lord has unlimited hands, unlimited eyes, unlimited ears. His ears are everywhere, hands are everywhere. How is that? So because he is situated within everyone's heart. He's inexhaustible. As many living entities, as many Paramatma sitting within the heart, accompanying the jiva to the journey of their material life. And this could go on forever. It could go on forever. So we're already in the Kali Yuga. So if we start to calculate how many years have gone past in this Manvantara itself, then it will be a big number. And how many lifetimes we all might have possibly passed through different bodies is inconceivable. But the Lord is so merciful that he never gives up. And someone is in, as Devi Gaurangi Mataji was explaining already, any type of body, elephant, small ant. In fact, so, and there are trillions, and this 8.4 million is the variety, but there are innumerable living entities everywhere. Like sometimes we work in the farms in the manor, and we do some digging and some leveling the soil and all that. I mean, take out some soil and we see so many different types of living entities. There are these earthworms, trillions of them. And I always look at them and I think of this aspect of the Lord, how Lord is accompanying all these living entities and trying to remind them for what purpose they have received this body. Because as is explained in the verse here, and I think it's in the purport, that he proposes and the Lord disposes. So living entity desires, it's very graphical to talk about earthworm, this desire to be under the soil and enjoy a particular type of matter. And the Lord is still accompanying, not forgetting. And there's this verse in Bhagavad Gita, which describes this and provides in great detail in the purport. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesya arjuna tishtati brahmyan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. So this So this jiva riding on the body, it's like a machine, is going around, and Lord sitting there and reminding that living entity as to what that desire was. And not only that, he reminds and also provides without the, it says here, without the help of the Lord, the jiva cannot enjoy anything, cannot experience anything. So it's completely inanimate. So it's only when the Paramatma enters, and then he activates the whole body, and the jiva gets memory, gets the knowledge as to how he is meant to enjoy the particular body. And it could be anyone. And the body could be made of, the 24 elements that we know from Bhagavad Gita. And the body could be made of any of those, multiple combination as well, like Lord Brahma's body. I was reading somewhere, I think Prabhupada's purpose somewhere mentions is made of intelligence alone. I mean, just think of it, how can we relate to this? Someone's body is made of intelligence only. Like we are so used to the 5 matter body, the 5 great elements, and but it is there. Same, there was someone who sent me recently. There was this volcano eruption somewhere a few months ago, and there was and the scientists found some living entities coming out of the volcano, which is like, it's completely fire. It's just fire, nothing else. I mean, the body has to be made of fire. So the living entity desires to have that kind of bodies that's also made available. That's inconceivable. And that is Lord's mercy. Why it is done, I think the question is, yes, it is in the Lord is providing the facility. But why is it providing the facility? It's because we desire to enjoy separate from the Lord. And then we wanted to be the controller. And here we are, trying to control the different aspects. And we can actually even see at homes also. Like sometimes my wife, she used to cook for 4 of us only at home. But sometimes one person likes to eat one thing, the other person doesn't like to eat that, and someone likes less spicy, more spicy. Somehow they have to arrange for everyone. And this is Lord who's trying to fulfill it. This is similar nature. This is out of love that Lord does it. Same way, same principle of love that we experience at home. Out of love, the mother cooks for the child, and in the variety that is desired by the child. And it does not differentiate, and she does not differentiate between one and the other. So the Lord is providing for everyone, it's like the sun is providing for everyone. And the other aspect is how does the body develop? So what did the science? So I was thinking, well, this is like Bhagavad Gita, the middle 6 chapters, or the last 6 chapters, yes, more clearly. So the chapter 13, the material nature, enjoyer, and the consciousness, and then 3 modes of material nature, and the Purushottam Yoga, and all these chapters so clearly defined, so much in detail. We get information as to how this whole, like the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, the field of activities, and the knower of the field of activities, and all those aspects are so clearly defined. Is beautiful. And how the living entity goes through the different journey, that's defined in the 15th chapter again. The example of banyan tree, how the Ashwatha tree his branches are spreading everywhere, and how it is someone who can cut the branches, By the weapon of detachment, only someone can cut across these this binding of the material body. I'm just thinking now. Yes. But the Lord is always feeling that. So why does the Lord feel? It's for the same purpose as we said before, because of the love that the Lord experiences, that the Lord has for the living entity. When the suffering and the enjoyment of the sons are indirectly suffering enjoyment of the Father, and the Father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering, the Lord is not affected. He is providing, but He is one within and also without. And so He's never directly suffering, but He does feel the pain because He's waiting for the living entity to return to look at Him. So after many births of pains and suffering and tasting of the different sweet and the bitter fruits, the Lord is just waiting constantly as to one day the son of mine will turn to me, and then I can help. And how does that happen is also provided in the previous verse. I'm just opening that. It's a very interesting aspect that is mentioned is the divine grace of spiritual master. This divine grace, the spiritual master can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive air. So Brahmanda Brahmite Kunu Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. So it's only with the words of spiritual master, by the hearing that desire or that aspect of the true knowledge of who one is, it gets awakened in the heart, and that desire to know one's true position then takes the living entity to the next level by constantly hearing from the spiritual master, and that is the nourishment that the devotee gets or the living entity gets, that gradually realizes the difference between the animality and the humanity. The difference between the animality and humanity lies in this process only. Animal cannot understand. So once the living entity desires a particular body or desires to enjoy the particular combination of senses, that body is given to the living entity. For example, if it once a dog, once a living entity gets into a dog body, and it is defined as to what the living entity can do. It only can, as a dog, it can just bark, can't do anything more than that. And if it gets a body of a hog, the body, it just all is limited to is just eat stool. It's graphical. Prabhu explains this. It's just repeating. And likewise, but it's only the human body in which there is this possibility of inquiring and also hearing. And in fact, it's a very interesting presentation that was made by one devotee. It was quoting some scripture, like how even the human birth is like, if we see how 8.4 million different species, human birth is so rare. And the example that was given was very interesting. It's like what is the possibility of someone getting a human birth and also getting the mercy of a spiritual master? Is the possibility that a turtle is swimming in the ocean, is underwater, is swimming in the ocean, and there is this like a tire, we see that there's a tire which is floating across on the waters, and this turtle coming up to the surface of the water, and what is the possibility that turtle gets onto the tire? I mean, this ocean is so huge, and the possibility of the both happening at the same time is so rare. It is so rare to receive the mercy of a spiritual master, and then to be able to to take it to the next level and surrender into the spiritual master, and then serve, and then realize the true position of our life as to how we've been how we've been traveling through the different part of the material creation, sometimes in the demigod's body, sometimes in the human body, or sometimes in the lower species, or all sorts of species. How rare it is to get that mercy of spiritual master. And then the other aspect that makes one more fertile is, once why do we need to learn all this about creation? This is also very interesting. So Srimad Bhagavatam has 10 topics that Srimad Bhagavatam explains. Atra sarga visargasya sthanam poshanam utayah manvantara ishanu katha nirodha muktir ashrayah. So sarga visarga is the primary creation. The sarga and visarga is the secondary creation. Sthanam is the positioning of the living entities for at different, within the different planetary position, within different universe, or within different bodies, and everywhere. So that's sthanam, sarga, visarga, sthanam, poshanam, and then the Lord's providing for the living entities and for the protection and for maintaining. Then there is uti. Uti is like utaya is inclination to act. So the living entities work in different ways. Sad asat yoni janmashu. This is the other verse from Bhagavad Gita. Karanam guna sanghasya sad asat yoni janmashu. So in the association of modes of material nature, living entity receives the sat and asat, like auspicious and auspicious bodies and the lives. And then Bhagavatam also provides manvantara, the different manus that we will come through as we do, and the Ishanu Katha, which is the different topics of the Lord's various incarnations, and his Leela avatars as well, and along with his devotees, different. And Nirodha is the is annihilation, dissolution. Muktir, liberation. Ashraya is this shelter. And it is said that all the 9 topics, in the following verse only, it says, all the 9 other topics are all meant for only one purpose, which is the Ashraya. Ashraya is taking the shelter of the Supreme Lord. And so hence the creation, understanding of creation is also, the purpose is only one, to take the shelter. And how, I was more thinking, how does it really help me in understanding creation in terms of shelter? So if we start to appreciate as to how Lord is providing at every stage, and how Lord is sending his messengers in the form of Guru, and how within the heart as Kshatriya Guru, as he's always guiding us and waiting for us to turn to him, is when we realize that aspect, the whole has been actually done to fulfill our desires, our desire to lord over, and our desire to be separate from Krishna. And Lord, being so merciful, provides all these facilities for us to not only how scientifically it is all designed, that we enjoy, or at least we try to enjoy what we ask for. And then there's also in the whole process, it is designed in a way that we get our lessons as well, as to we cannot enjoy in separation from Krishna. And how Lord is working with his associates, like Lord Brahma. So is the secondary creator, primary creator, the Supreme Lord. And Lord Brahma understands as to what particular desire is to be fulfilled by what type of body is to be created. So Lord creates that seeds, for example. Yeah, just like we have again taking example of the farm. This is a good season to come to the farm and do some services there. So we planting different seeds. So we plant different seeds. Different seeds, they looks different, obviously, but some of them not very different. but within the seed is packed everything, what's going to come out. So Lord Brahma, Lord Krishna, or Supreme Lord provides the seeds, but Lord Brahma has to then figure out as to what needs to come out and what type of body should be provided to the individual, and to be able to fulfill the whole combination of um, the desire and the deserve. So living entity may desire something, but they deserve something else. So and even after birth, like there is the 8th chapter Bhagavad Gita also explains that what does it say? Like at the time of birth, at the time of death, whatever we remember, yam yam vapi smaran bhava tajatyante kalayaram tam tam ayaveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. So whatever one remembers at the time of death, a similar type of body that, or the desires accumulating, whatever that desires make up of the subtle body, subtle mind, and that subtle mind then develops the body, and that's all done by the arrangement of the Lord, and the Lord provides a blueprint. So the Lord Brahma is working in conjunction with Lord Krishna and making all these facilities for us. So I'm coming to the point of, so when we get little bit understanding of what has been done, to what extent this creation has been, how complicated, how intricate it is. Like some people may not even realize. Even I was like, I would have, a couple of decades ago, I had no idea what's happening. Where is this coming from? What is the creation? So until the time we get in contact with devotees, then we realize, okay, and then we get the books from Prabhupada, and the books provide us all the information. Then we understand this is all being created so scientifically and with the purpose. The purpose of this creation is only one, so that we turn to our loving master and then start serving him instead of serving Maya. But when we see this aspect of creation, in my mind, I get so much gratitude. So how much has been done for us? If I see like I am the only created being, then let's say how much has been done just for me. It's just so humbling. It is so it creates so much gratitude, and the gratitude, the reciprocation of gratitude means what? Service. So this is once the living entity realize that this is all Lord has done and this is what the law of love is, then the natural reaction to that is the reciprocation as to how I can actually now fulfill these the true purpose. So the sambandha, abhideya and prayojan. So sambandha, once we understand by the creation, we understand the sambandha gyan as to what is our relationship with Lord Krishna. Aham bija pradapa. So that is again, that was quoted by Devi Gaurangi Mata a couple of days ago. So that once we understand that our relationship with Lord is of that, son and father, I also explained in this purport, then we develop that longing to go back, and then and that will be the purpose of all this all this knowledge that we have been provided. So the knowledge of, like Arjun asking as to what is the Prakriti, what is the Purusha, who is the field, the knower of the field, what is the knowledge, object of knowledge. Interestingly, how Krishna describes in the 13th chapter about knowledge is the process of knowledge. So knowledge is, Prabhupada says in the purport, that this knowledge is not about the interaction of the different material elements, of the 24 elements, the interaction. With the interaction, lots of things are happening. That's the knowledge that generally that we receive, and all the education system provides as to how the different elements are interacting. But this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita starts with amanitvam, adamvitvam, and amanitvam is like humility, and then the whole of this 20 different items of knowledge is provided. And Srila Prabhupada gives very particular focus on the aspect of the bhakti of a vicharini. That aspect of the knowledge is most important, because Mai Chananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyacharini. Mai Cha Ananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyacharini. It's uninterrupted bhakti. Again, same Yado Bhakti Yado Sajaya. Apratihata, uninterrupted. Again, same Avyacharini, uninterrupted, unbroken bhakti. That is the process of knowledge that actually terminates into, or that concludes into, the unalloyed devotion service. So this process of knowledge is what is more given importance in Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita, it provides the essential elements, or the essential information of the three aspects of creation: the living being, and the super soul, and the material nature itself. And Srimad Bhagavatam, how that both scriptures work. So Mahaprabhu has given us these two scriptures to just imbibe in our life. And Srimad Bhagavatam elaborates on all these aspects. So the basic principle the Bhagavad Gita provides, the creation and all these aspects of the Kshetra, knower, knowledge, and modes of material nature, various aspects. Bhagavatam also covers them in a lot more detail. But what else we receive in Bhagavatam is the elaboration of all these principles. When we see so many examples that the living entities or the devotees in different roles, sometimes the lessons are learned, and sometimes the devotees are, how they pass through the whole of this different principles, and how they attain, or how they surrender unto the Supreme Lord, and how sometimes, if there is a mistake, for example, Bharat Maharaj, same at the time of death, remembering the deer and then getting deer alive, but because of his devotion and because of his service to the Lord, he retains the memory of what he was trying to achieve in his previous life, and then he again revives Jada Bharat and all that. And there's another story of actually it's a symbolical story of Narad Muni is explaining to Prachina Bhari about Puranjan. So this is comes in the, I think, 5th canto. About Puranjan, how he's so attached to this, the material life, and what happens at the time of death. He remembers he's so attached to his wife, he gets under the body of women, then that's the way Dharbi, and then again it's serving her husband, and then Malya Dhwaj and like that. And then how this is all these principles that are established in Bhagavad Gita or provided by Lord in Bhagavad Gita are more expanded in Bhagavatam. So all these creation aspect, and that we're going to go through a lot more detail in the 2nd canto and in 3rd canto, and actually more in the next chapter, a little bit more will be discussed, is constantly given so much importance by all the great souls, as well as Prabhuji was explaining yesterday with Navan Chandra Prabhu, even Parikshit Maharaj asking similar questions, and that means it is all for us to also deeply study and try to understand. I mean, we can only understand so much, but whatever effort we put, and the Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenama Upayantite. So what happens is, so Chatusloki, if you see Chatusloki Gita as well, like Lord starts with how does he start? Anyone want to? I'm just being monologue at the moment. Can participate in this.
Aham Sarvasya Prabhu.
Yes, thank you. Aham Sarvasya Prabhu Matta Sarvam Pravartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhav Samanvita. And then Mataji, please, next.
Matchitta Madgata Prana Buddhayante Parashparam Kathayantesche Mamnita Tushanti Cha Romanti Cha.
And then the next one, Tesham
I can't remember. I have to see. Sorry.
Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenama Upayantite. So how interesting it is that Aham Sarvasya Prabhu Matta Sarvam Pravartate Iti Bhajante. Just by understanding the Lord is creating everything, and he's pervaded into everything, and then the Buddha, the intelligent person, starts to worship the Lord. Now, this is, if we see that this principle that is provided by Bhagavad Gita is just purely these. And Lord, this is the first verse of the Chatusloki Bhagavad Gita, which says this. And now we say, okay, so if we are intelligent, and if we just knew these two, like Aham Sarvasa Prabhu, Matta Sarvam Pravartate, Iti Matva Bhajante Mam. So, and we start just worshiping the Lord, just so but this is the principle that Lord is established. It's also in the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, pretty much says the same thing. So this understanding of creation is given so much importance. But the result, because the devotee understands that this creation is for what purpose. Until the time someone do not understand, like what is the purpose behind the creation, someone can just carry on life after life after life, not realizing what's happening. It's only by the mercy of Guru and Sadhu and Shastra that we actually realize what's really happening, what is our true position. And then we start to take shelter. And then the Lord, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, then he provides the intelligence. So this is all. So intelligence comes to, how does the intelligence come to living entity? Like for us sadhakas, we performing, all our sadhana and chanting our rounds and attending Bhagavatam and, serving devotees and all the sadhana aspects that is provided so that we please the Lord and please the Lord's devotees. And then what happens? Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. So we get the intelligence. And how does the intelligence come to us? Intelligence comes to us through the channel of Super Soul, or coming through the channel of Guru, if we're closely serving Guru. And that intelligence that we get gradually, Shanay, like step by step, as we get more and more intelligent, we start to realize things as they are. As we realize more and more, we take shelter more and more. As we take more and more shelter, and then the Lord, gives us more knowledge as we progress, bit by bit. And even in the the aspect of 13th chapter also, this given like all this knowledge of the field and the knower of the field and all that is experienced, or maybe is realized by the different transcendentalists, like vadanti tattvavidam tattvam tad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaneti satyate. So this, either yogis or the jnanis, by understanding the Sankhya, the 24 elements, and we actually consider 26 elements, 24 plus living entity plus the Supreme Soul, and the jnanis, they attain the Super Soul, and the yogis attain the Super Soul. But the devotees, sometimes say, so the Lord says, if the devotees, some of them are not able to get this spiritual knowledge, or this, the deep understanding of these complex, intricate creation aspects, then they just, by hearing, they start to worship the Supreme Lord from others. And from just because they're hearing from the right authority, they automatically get interested and they transcend the birth and death. And Prabhupada in that purpose remembers explain, actually this is the condition of the modern life, because we have no background of this education right from the young age to until the time we come across devotee, and that's the book distribution magic happens, and we get a book and then we start to read, and then we realize that relationship is created. And this, just by starting to hear, automatically the knowledge develops, and then the devotees start to see the things in true sense, starting to see the others as well, as what the others are, how everyone is actually part of the Lord and part and parcel of the Lord. And then the ignorance gets destroyed. So then the samatvam comes along, and then the process of that no shochiti na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labhate param. So all the ignorance, the suffering is because of ignorance, and when the ignorance is because of the kankshati and the shochati. And then the 14th chapter obviously explains how the different modes, so someone can transcend the modes, all the three modes, like the sattva binds one to the knowledge and happiness. Yes, we have the knowledge, I'm happy, and because I'm able to differentiate, okay, this is something, unfavorable happening, okay, this is my karma, and we can easily brush off, okay, this is fine, and then stay happy. It's possible. A lot of people also do. I've met some people like that, and who are in knowledge, who've been given that, from childhood, that atmosphere of goodness at home. Many families like that in India. And they say, okay, what is the problem? Why do we have to do bhakti? I'm living a good life, I have good knowledge. There is that sense of attachment. I met some. That's when I actually could truly understand this, when I met some people like that. And so there is this aspect of, staying in the world with this goodness, or the passion that creates more hankering and more desires, that stays in the. So the one in the goodness goes to the higher planetary system, and the passions remains in the middle planetary, like this material world, and the ignorance goes to the lower kingdom of animals, or maybe lower planetary systems. But someone once realizing, or understanding how the super soul works, and how super soul accompanies the individual souls in all bodies, yeah. And then once that knowledge is clear, and how the soul is, and super soul is never to be destroyed, when that knowledge starts to appear, and then they start to see in the true sense. This is a word like vinasyatyam vinashyantam ya pashyati sa pashyati. The once the living entity decides that after all the destruction, but the destruction is only of the bodies, not of the soul, then, and the super soul, then they start to see the true sense, and they automatically then attain the supreme. And the process of, obviously the whole process of deity worship, and the process of hearing, reading scriptures, and chanting on the four things that was provided, which helps the devotees, get closer and closer to the Lord. That was my long talk. Sorry if I was confusing you. Hare Krishna. So maybe you can open up for some questions there, any quickly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna Namrata Mataji.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for a wonderful class. I really appreciate that, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I just had a bit of a reflection and a bit of a question as well, if that's okay. So, and it relates to the bit where you said that what we're thinking in the last minutes of our life, generally God gives us wish, makes that wish true, and that's what we may come back as. So Prabhuji, I lost my dad, my papa, 1.5 years ago. And one of the legacies that I got from him was I started taking Krishna consciousness very sincerely after I lost my papa. And he was one of those, Prabhuji, who would, I wouldn't say 24 hours, but he always had the mala in his hands. And he'll go for exercise 2 hours. I'm a bit like him, exercise holic, but he will always have mala in his hands. So whenever, he never counted if he's done 16, because he knew he would do way more than 16. But the thing, Prabhuji, was during the time that he was passing away, he obviously got COVID in India, and you know how bad it was in India. He was recovering. He never told me, he had an intuition that he wouldn't live. He never told me that he wouldn't. But the last couple of days, he was saying to my mom that Mara hatma mara nathi avti, as in, I'm not able to do the mara. So Prabhuji, what I'm trying to say is how during that time, why wasn't the mala coming to his hands, even though he was one of those who was all the time, whenever I call him, he had the mala in his hand. Whatever he's doing, he had the mala in his hand. So why during the last 2-3 days, he couldn't touch the mala?
Okay, so that, you want me to answer that? Yeah?
Yes, Prabhuji, because
Okay.
I'm thinking ahead what will happen to me when my time will come, Prabhuji.
No, Mataji, okay. First of all, this what you just said is, able to hold mala. This is all the technical aspects. The Lord is not, catching someone on technicality, or someone. We have so many devotees could give up the body in coma or in situation where the devotee is not able to chant. But the Lord does not hold someone on those technicalities, what we hear from the devotees or from the gurus. Lord does not see that. Lord sees the bhava, the intention. Intention is more important than the real, the physical action of that. So the intention, like there is inside, there is chanting always going on. So there is this devotee, Prabhupada's godbrother in Vrindavan. It is said that when the doctor, once he was unwell, and the doctor put the stethoscope on his heart, and it actually says that he was hearing only the Maha Mantra because this great devotee was always chanting. And similarly, if there is the life full of service, life full of gratitude, and life full of chanting, and the last moment is not really the true sense. The last moment does not build up, as we all experience life. We all trying to be Krishna conscious for so many years. We're trying to get better, but we know that it's a long journey. So the journey does not, it's not that in the last minute someone can just, okay, here I chant and I become a devotee and I just go back to God. It doesn't know the whole life, it's a whole life practice. And the Lord sees the heart and the intention. This technicality does not matter, Mataji, is what I have heard.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, I never pronounce. Can I enhance something you've said as well?
Please, sir.
I heard something very beautiful from our acharyas that if we've remembered Krishna all our life and at the time of death, for whatever reason, circumstances prevent us from remembering him, Krishna will not forget us. He will remember us. So whether we've at the last time, as long as we practiced devotional service all our lives, at the time, if the circumstances, for whatever reason, prevent us from remembering him, whether it's memory loss, accident, all these things are just material considerations. At the time, Krishna will remember us. So I think Mataji, take console, in that if he's been a devotee all his life, then Krishna would not have forgotten him at the time of his departure.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for a very thought-provoking class. So mine is leading on from Namrata Mataji's question, is based on Bharat Maharaji's pastime. He was at prema level. All his life he had desired to surrender to the Lord, and he left his family and he was at prema level. And then why did that not supersede his absorption at the time of leaving his body? Because he was dedicated. And yet the one that was most important at the time was that he was absorbed in the deer and he got the deer's body. The fact that he was absorbed in the Lord before that wasn't considered then.
Yes, so but this is again, this is all beautiful pastime that reminds us of these principles. So yes, so he got the body of a deer, but how likely is that the deer's body, he remembered what really happened with him? This is Lord's mercy. And then in the next body, Jad Bharat also, he just followed exactly, he remembered what happened to him 2 lives before. And he was behaving in a different way. So this is all Lord's mercy. And then we talk about one life, so we also hear, like, if we talk about the eternity, this line, if you draw a line of eternity, as Maharaj says sometimes, and then if you put a dot here and dot there in 1 or 2 lifetimes, how does it really matter? So if you see in that aspect, the Lord still gave the memory that what was not to be done in the next birth, and retaining. And then deer, I've heard, like, deer was always around the sages or the ashram. He was always go around there in that body also. He was always conscious and always remembered that. So that's a great mercy of the Lord.
Yes, I suppose that's true, Prabhuji, that sometimes the regression comes because it wants to intensify our sadhana and focus on the Lord, isn't it? Yes.
You put it very nicely.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
There's another question. If a person falls
Hare
down,
Krishna, Shyam, Hare
yes,
Prabhu.
Mataji.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful class. It really lifted my soul actually. Also what helped me in this class, that, you know, you are giving the example of, well, you are doing the gardening in the temple, and how many seeds you are seeing, and after planting the different seeds, how it creates to a different, maybe looking same, those seeds, but when they sprout, when they grow up, they look all different. So how Krishna is so merciful. And you also mentioned about the worms and different insect you see. I mean, Krishna as a super soul still goes in the with the desire of particular jiva with each and everybody, and he's, you know, he's helping each of us to trying to go back to him, you know, to the spiritual world. The whole session was really churning my heart. It was really, really nice. And I also just wanted to mention two of the devotees who recently, you know, like, you know, Krishna Purna husband, when Haribamsa Prabhu was having the operation, and he was going to be under anesthetic. So before that, he actually, Krishna Purna brought some tulsi, and so he phoned Shruti Dharma Prabhu in the they were in Mayapur, and he said, what happened if I can't remember, because if I'm going to be under anesthetic? He said, Lord Chaitanya will come in your league, and he will chant, you know. So it's so nice to hear from very senior devotee that it's never that, you know, Lord is more merciful than we can think of. And, you know, recently Akinchana Prabhu has left his body, and I could hear His Holiness Shivram Maharaj was chanting some of the Upanishad mantra to him. Lord, please remember what I did, you know. That way, devotee or somebody will come, or Krishna is so merciful, he will remind us, you know, if we are really dedicated and remember. And he will help us. He will help us at the time of leaving the body.
Sure.
So that I mentioned. Thank
Beautiful.
you. Hari
Remind me of Mukundamala Stotra. Prabhupada has
Yes.
translated it.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful verse. We can read that some Mukundamala Stotra. Maybe you can read later on. There's one message on the chat. If a person falls down to a lower animal form of life due to his karma or desires, does he immediately come back as a human life in the next life after karma has been burned, or does the living entity have to climb back through all forms of life above it to get back to the human form of life? Wow. Anyone would like to answer that? So the question is, if a person falls to lower animal life in one center, like for whatever reason, does that person get immediately the human body, or gets to the whole cycle of 8.4 million before it comes back to human life?
Karma is quite a complex area, Prabhuji. It's not as simple as that. It depends on what the accumulated karmas are and what the accumulated paps and aparads are, and it's quite a complex area. It's beyond our form of calculation. But what is, I think, what Shastras tell us is that when karma is exhausted from an animal life, at the point where you've burnt that karma, at that point you come back as human life in order to be able to progress, hopefully back and seek Krishna consciousness again to be able to elevate ourselves. But it depends on the volume of accumulated bad karma as to what levels of progressions of life one has to cycle through. So I think that is my humble attempt. Sorry, Prabhuji, I'm not really qualified.
I think that's very good.
And
Yes.
it's a wonderful class. I just wanted to say something else that you
Yes,
mentioned. There was something really, when I was quite young and when I started reading, I always used to challenge things that I read in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, because, you know, I was, you know, immature, and I'm still pretty immature, but, you know, sort of one thing that I couldn't understand is how could life exist on these fiery planets and fire, you know. So, but actually, if you look at it scientifically, the Earth's 70%, more than 70% of the Earth's surface is water. And what percentage of our body is water? around 70%. Right. So if the sun planet is 90% fire, then why can't there be a body 90% made of fire? It's so simple, really. But because our conditioning limits our perceptions to what we know, we can't seem to be able to see beyond that. And yet the Shastra tells us actually what's there cosmically, but our ant-like brain is not able to compute it all the time. I mean, when we come to creation, I think it's so beautiful. There's so much vast amount of information, the diameter of the earth, diameter of the sun, the size of the universe, a number of planets. It is all defined so accurately. Even the atomic clock is defined in there. So it's just mind-blowingly accurate. So it's such a wonderful class. Thank you, Prabhuji.
There's so many, like ocean of honey, ocean of milk. We have only tasted ocean of salty water, but there are so many aspects. They all exist. Yes, and yeah, we can.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Jolly Mataji.
This is a very common question about what happens at the end of life, whether you are remembering Krishna or not. And I think and a lot of people are curious about this, because it's not as cut and dry as we say. As you say about the devotee, whatever they've been doing, the sincerity of their actions throughout their lives, or as far as near their end of life, it doesn't go amiss, because it's credited to their karma and credited to their lives, so they don't lose out. It's just at that moment, COVID especially was the first lot was a serious destructive virus that interfered with all your senses, and it wasn't an easy thing to manage. So how can one remember that moment when that gentleman was always hanging on to his beads, and you just don't hold on to the beads for nothing. There was actions and sincerity put in that. So I would say it doesn't go amiss. Krishna is very merciful,
Yes,
and is credited to you.
yes.
If it will help that Mataji, just some kind of.
It's amazing, actually. Yes, you reminded me of something I read. I don't know when, but it says like how many births it takes to get to the point of taking up the chanting. So that has gone through all of those. So this is not ordinary to be able to chant, and all the offenses are already finished by just one chanting. So Mahaprabhu explained, like, to some of the devotees asking who is a Vaishnava, who's a devotee. And Mahaprabhu says once someone has said the name of Krishna, is a devotee. So this does not happen, otherwise. This is all Lord's beautiful arrangement, and obviously his devotees bringing in. There's one more question. Hare Krishna, depends in general. One would have to. I'm reading a message. Hare Krishna, depends in general. One would have to go up the ladder step by step to the species, but then say someone does Ekadashi on behalf of that soul, and that soul will reap the benefit of the donated Ekadashi, and therefore jump few species. All species got to heavenly planets, spiritual realm. It is very complex. How can it is very complex. Yes, and Shailesh Prabhu also said it's very highly technical, where we just so long we are tied up to this principle of how merciful the Lord is. If we only see the mercy aspect of it, everything is his mercy, then these things will be easier to accept and digest, because this is ultimately is fulfilling our desires. So there's more than karma. What scriptures explain is more about the desire of living entities. So the modes of material nature are created to fulfill the desires. So it is eventually comes back to the desires and intentions. Even for devotees in devotional life, also what our intention is, that is more critical as to how much service are we able to do, how much, like this is the story of squirrel and Hanuman, as we hear, and this is about intention and and the Lord within the heart knows the intention always. Before we think, he already knows. So Vedaham Samtitani, so he says he knows everything. I'm just conscious of that. I'm not going to go again. Sorry. Yes, thank you so much, all the devotees. You just inspired. And it was probably in the later 20 minutes, it was put more together by all of you wonderful devotees. Thank you so much. And have a great Krishna conscious weekend and the following week. Thank you so much. Oh, someone has put lots of verses. Thank you so much for doing that, Mataji. Oh, Prabhu, I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you for the good class. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much. You're always kind, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Bhagavatam.
Panchakapata evacha kripa sindhuva evacha patitanam brahmavebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Very
Krishna.
nice class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Bol, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Great.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.